So we're gonna go ahead and go in and we're gonna start working on some obstacle works. And we're gonna be focusing on two particular training approaches. One is gonna be what we call direction training, and the other is gonna be what we call magnet training. Okay, so I'm gonna do really quick, kind of a little demo as far as two main approaches that you can use to get your horse to go over an obstacle. There's actually a lot of different ways that you can get a horse to go over an obstacle, but there's two that are particularly easier that most horses take to, okay? Did Possum ever go over that bridge? Kind of? Okay, let me, if I may, let me work with him. And I'm gonna bring him over this direction. Okay, so the two kind of main approaches that you can use with your obstacle work are gonna be what we call direction training and what we call magnet training. So direction training, basically, like we are asking our horse to move a specific direction. When they move in that direction, we take the pressure away, right? So we were doing a little bit of direction training when we were sending earlier, right? If your pony doesn't want to go forward, we apply pressure behind. The moment they go forward, we take the pressure away because they went in the direction that we asked them to go in. Does that make sense? So pretty straightforward, okay? Sometimes what happens when we are training, we forget about direction training. We become so preoccupied with the obstacle that we are training to the obstacle and not necessarily to the direction, the effort, the try that our horse gives us. So a really clear example is the trailer. If you have a horse doesn't want to go into the trailer and they just keep, they sit back, they run backwards out of the trailer. And so that horse is running backwards out of the trailer and they're going back, back, back. And say you're tapping to tell that horse to go forward towards that trailer. You might end up like 300 feet away from the trailer. But if you keep tapping and the moment that horse goes forward, you release, you're rewarding your horse for going in the right direction, right? A lot of people will sustain pressure and say, no, get after that horse until it gets right up to that trailer to let them know that that's the place where they need to be. It's not about the trailer, it's about the connection and your horse's understanding, right? So that makes pretty sense. That's pretty straightforward. So on the other hand, you have what's called magnet training, right? With magnet training, it's basically taking your horse to an object and letting them rest there, right? He lowered his head, I relieved the pressure. I'm letting him know that this place is a good place for him to be, okay? And the way that we do that is we might do some direction training where we send our horse away and we'll get them kind of moving and maybe working. I'm gonna ask him to trot here. And then I'll give him the opportunity to come in and sync up. Oh, look at that, with the obstacle, right? I wanna make this obstacle a place of rest, a really good place to be. So he's almost kind of wanting to go over himself. I'm not gonna let him run past me there. I'm gonna say, hey, this is your spot to rest. You can rest here. So it's like we're building a magnet to the obstacle, okay? Now, if he didn't try to come over the top of me, I would have actually just sent him back off and put him to work, right? But because he's coming over the top of me, I want to teach him something to let him understand, like, that's not acceptable. You can't come over the top of me. But say right now he just decided to drift that way and start, I'd let him go. In fact, I'd send him off. Whoops. There we go. I'd send him off here. And I let him know that anywhere away from the object that I'm trying to magnetize him to, anywhere away from that, like, that's not a good place to be. That's going to result in having to do work. But when he draws to the object, immediately all the work goes away. Couple of things to notice, really important. You notice how I don't really care how he's approaching the object, right? A lot of times people are approaching an obstacle and they're really preoccupied with making sure that their horses are squared up, that their feet are approaching it just right. I don't care about that. we can refine those things, right? Going back to simplicity, breaking it down. Now down the road, we'll establish those expectations. No, I want you to approach it from this end. I want you to try it from that end. I want you to go back to that end. But right now, I just want to develop an attraction to the obstacle. So I know that I have a good attraction to the obstacle when my pony starts to choose the obstacle on their own. So if I kind of send them around and I take the pressure away, there, you see him start to kind of float to it on his own, just a touch. He lowers his head over it. You can see he's getting understanding. This is a good place. Ah, don't chew on that. This is a good place to be. Are you gonna go send yourself? Hold on, I'm gonna set this over here. Here you go. Thank you. So he's getting the picture. You can see now he's figuring out that this is a good place to be. Okay, so that's what magnet training looks like, right? You're magnetizing your pony to the object. So there are going to be times when you are approaching an object that you are going to use direction training. There are going to be times when you use magnet training, right? There's going to be times when you use the both of them, okay? So for example, I'm going to come to probably step up on that obstacle, but I want to gradually build his confidence, right? Simplicity. I'm going to start with this bridge. It's going to be a little easier than the obstacle. So direction training, I'm going to send my pony around the obstacle. I want to make sure that we have clarity, that when I invite you to go somewhere, that you'll go forward for me, okay? Now we're going to change to magnet training and let him rest there, right? Let him just chill. Let him know that he made a good decision by approaching it. When you use these combinations, it's not that you have to force your horse over anything. They're going to want to go over the obstacle. They're going to become curious. They're going to become more motivated to try to take that next step because we're taking the time and letting them be a part of the process. And so I want to be clear about what I mean by that. With direction training, he doesn't have to go forward. I'm asking him to go forward, and then I'm going to see if he responds. If he does, great. If not, I'll just keep asking until he finally does, right? But it's not about forcing him to do it. Do you guys understand that distinction? With the magnet training, again, remember I said, you know, if he went to walk off, fine, you can walk off, go take a walk. But then I'm just going to send you around and then give you another opportunity to interact with the obstacle. Here's the cool thing about when you do this combination is if you have enough time, like I said, your horse will actually go in the trailer themselves. They'll cross over the bridge themselves. Now, most people don't have the time that it takes for them to choose to do that on their own. So you can expedite it by giving them some more clarity, by adding some pressure to say, okay, can you step forward? And when I ask them to step forward, as long as I'm tapping somewhere behind to drive forward to make that clear, the moment he gives me effort, I'm gonna stop tapping, okay? Nice big deep breath, right? Let him rest here, right? When I'm letting him rest, what is that? Is that direction training or magnet training? That's magnet training, right? Letting him become magnetized. So pretty cool, right? He looks pretty chill, pretty relaxed there. Very good. Here's where a lot of people mess up. They get 2 feet on there and they're like, yes, that looks great. Let me pull you over or let me straighten you up. I much rather say, okay, good job, but let's back up and let me send you back around. Back to some direction training. I want to really make him want to go over that obstacle. And so if I'm just anxious to just pull him over and I'm not backing him up and kind of creating some patience and creating some draw and creating some curiosity about that, I'm losing some really good opportunities to get him to engage on his own. Look at that, good pony. Love it. So you see how that time I didn't have to tap, I didn't have to have the pressure. Like he's like, whoo, I like this spot. This is a good spot. I get to rest. I get to relax. It feels so good. He's like, yeah, look at me. Yeah, look at you. Yes, sir. Yeah. Good job. So I like that, but I want to have a little bit more confidence that he's going to choose where I ask him to go and he's going to be magnetized to it. So I'm going to ask him to kind of back off of here again. And as soon as he comes off, I'm going to send him around There you go. I'm gonna take a deep breath. I'm gonna set him up, see if he makes the decision to go on his own. Very good. He made some really good choices. Good pony. What a pony. Now, just now when I let him cross the bridge, what was that? Was that direction or magnet? What was it? What? It was direction, right? If I had stopped him and held him there and let him rest, that would have been magnet, right? But it was direction because I just forward, let him go over it, let him kind of find his own way. And so what you don't want to do too, just one other thing that's really important. You don't want to send your pony off over the obstacle, then you get so excited, like, good job, and you go and you rub him when he's off the obstacle. Because then you're rewarding him for being off of the obstacle, right? So you want to make sure that you give the praises and the rewards when he's on the obstacle so that he's more inclined to seek to go towards the obstacle. Does that make sense? Okay, all right, cool. So what I want you guys to do is do a little bit of direction training, send them around the obstacle, get them saying, yes, ma'am, going forward when you ask them to go forward. You see how by practicing that direction training, getting him to send forward and then magnetizing him. And then finally, once I saw that we had, okay, good forward and a good magnet here, then all I had to do was say, hey, and he's like, oh yeah, let's go. And so then it's not whacking and beating and tapping and forcing them to go on there. They're a part of the process. They feel included. You're kind of cluing them along as to what's happening, and they take ownership. They feel so much more like they're a part of the process. So you saw, like, I didn't have to make him go over that. He was like, oh yeah, okay, cool, yeah, I got this, right? All right, so find an obstacle that your horse won't do, that they have a challenge with, and work on that obstacle, okay?